a friend of mine from Bellevue was on an Archdiocesan Education Board, and she asked me to go with her to this retreat that they were having over at Ground Zero. And I had now heard of Ground Zero, only barely, and my friend did not particularly want to go. And so having me come along with her was an interesting thing. At that time, she was trying to get me to join the Archdiocesan Women's Commission. But I'd been at the mental health center, and I could see that my life was kind of going someplace else, and I didn't want to tie myself up with another commission. And so, but I did agree to do this with her because she didn't really want to go alone, and that's really kind of why I went. But she said I would need to call Mary Grandin, who is a Sister of Providence, and was in Pax Christi, and we were just getting involved in '81 in Pax Christi in Seattle, and we tried to start a chapter on the east side, which is a Catholic peace movement, international really. And she called me and asked me why I would come to such a thing, and I talked to her for a little bit, and she said, "You sound like someone who needs to be there." And I went with Lee, and I was overwhelmed. I remember we took a bus tour and went all around the corners of the bases to the different gates, and they explained what was going on, and they were there with, you know, infrared cameras and taking film footage of us looking at the gates. And that was a little bit scary for me. And then they talked literally all day, and different people talked about what was planned and what was going on already at the base. You know, it had been an ammo dump during part of Vietnam. There were smaller subs, and then Keyport Naval Sea Warfare Station is across the road, sort of. And it seemed like a pretty eerie mission, and it seemed very inland, which was pretty scary. It's a very narrow body of water. It didn't seem like it seemed like a highly populated place to have such a weapon system, just from that point of view. And they gave us a history of the base, of the Native American village, and the myths surrounding the lagoon. There were stories about the Black Lagoon, which was just, you know, part of Hood Canal, and there are a lot of bays and inlets and stuff, and this was a dark one, and there was a beast that lived in the lagoon, and but they just told the stories of how to put Highway 3 up Kitsap. They took over farmland, did eminent domain on all kinds of land. So it just seemed like a very unjust and bad thing they were doing.